Today's a big day. We get to pick out a domain for your business. Now, it's kind of a big deal. Once you pick out a domain, you don't want to have to change it in the future. That can create all sorts of headaches for search engine optimization. So we want to get it right the first time. So we want to go over a few tips in picking out a domain so that you can get the best domain possible for your business. So the first tip that we want to go over is to keep it as short as possible. Now, I know that it's really hard to get a .com domain these days. 10, 20 years ago, it was pretty easy. There was a lot of stuff that was available. Nowadays, it's a lot more difficult. And even some of the short ones that you can find that are available cost a premium price. There's a lot of domain registrars out there. I don't know who sets these prices, but they're there and there's no way to really get around them as far as I know. And so you want to be able to find the best .com domain possible. Now, the good news is there's a bunch of other top-level domains, which is .com is a top-level domain. There's a bunch of different top-level domains that you can get now. Obviously, there's always been like the .info, .net, .biz, like all those, although I don't like a lot of those, but there's new ones that have come out like .shop, .supply, .tech, all sorts of different ones. So you can go online and look those up and see which one might be the most relevant for your business. So we do want to try to get a .com domain, but if we can't, we can always go over to those other top-level domains. So aside from keeping it short, we also want to keep it memorable. We want it to reflect the name of your business, what you do. If you can include some keywords in your top-level domain, that may help a little bit in helping rank well in Google search results. Now, Google several years ago came out and said that that's not the case. However, I kind of don't believe them. But if you can very naturally include some keywords, that might be wise to do. And you don't want it to be spammy. You don't want to do too many keywords in there. But if it makes sense for your business, then you can do that. I would also avoid any numbers or hyphens. Every time you have a number in a domain name, it's really difficult as you're trying to tell people about it to say like, oh, go to 5 studios, but you got to spell out the 5. It's kind of a pain. Similar to hyphens, you have to tell them where that hyphen is. I would much rather go to a new top-level domain like .tech or something than use a hyphen or number in a domain. Once you've picked out a domain, you want to make sure that there are no existing trademarks that conflict with what you've chosen. You can go to uspto.gov to find out and do a search if that domain name or that business name is taken. So that's a great resource to go check out. I would also go check out the Wayback Machine. I believe it's called webarchive.org or something like that. We'll put a link below. But you can go to WebArchive and look at that domain in the past. They'll have screenshots. And you want to make sure that it hasn't been like kind of a spammy website in the past. If it has, there's a chance that Google has kind of penalized that domain, and it would be really difficult to get those rankings back with your new website on there. So if it looks spammy, then I would avoid it and choose a different domain. One very important aspect of choosing a domain is to kind of think ahead in the future. You don't want to have such a narrow domain name that it doesn't allow you to expand your product or your services in the future. So as just a really quick example, if you were selling men's soaps, right? Say maybe you wanted bestmenssoaps.com. It was successful, you build the brand, this is great. You now want to expand your product line outside of just soaps. You want to go into some other form of skincare, but your domain says soaps. And so you can see how you want to kind of go more around the topic rather than get really specific inside of a topic. Like maybe you'd want to do health or skincare or whatever instead of soaps, because you might want to expand into that later. So that's something that's very important. We see it all happen all the time to where people get really narrow and then all of a sudden they want to get a new domain, and then you have to go through all sorts of headaches to go from the old domain to the new domain. You're going to lose search engine rankings. It's just not worth it. So try to think ahead as best as you can. And lastly, I would also look at social media handles that match that domain to make sure they're available. If not, I would consider making some tweaks to try to find some social media handles that are available and seeing if those domains are available as well. That way you can be consistent across all platforms, social media and search alike. And lastly, when you find a domain that you like, sometimes it pays to act quickly and just get it. There have been times to where I personally have found a domain that I like, and then I check back in a few weeks and it's gone. So don't let that happen to you. If you find a domain that you are like, I'm 80% sure that I'm going to use this one, it might be wise just to buy it for at least a year, hold on to it until you can make that decision, because it's a Wild West. Things go fast in the domain world. So without further ado, let's get you a domain.